cases have been on the rise. How does some vaccine skepticism affect all of us? Now's the time to weigh in. Tweet us at 1A. Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. Texas authorities are still investigating why an 18-year-old man shot and killed 21 people at an elementary school in Uvalde this week. NPR's Ashley Lopez reports law enforcement says they're examining his communications right before the rampage.
State police say that just 30 minutes before entering Robb Elementary School, the gunman posted private messages on Facebook. He later broke into a fourth grade classroom and killed 19 children and 2 adults. Steve McCraw with the Texas Department of Public Safety says the gunman's communication is part of law enforcement's ongoing investigation into what led to Tuesday's events.
He was trying to communicate. And of course, some of the information is we're going to have to continue to do interviews with people that he's been in contact with, so we're not even close to being done yet.
The small, close-knit community in Uvalde continues to mourn. Last night, the community held a vigil and a mass for those who were grieving. Ashley Lopez, NPR News, Uvalde.
Oklahoma has just adopted the most stringent abortion ban in the country. The threshold ban is moved from 6 weeks of pregnancy to the moment of fertilization. From member station KOSU, Catherine Sweeney reports the measure has already taken effect.
Governor Kevin Stitt announced he signed the bill on Wednesday evening. It has exceptions for medical emergencies and rape, but effectively bans all other abortions, beginning at fertilization. For nearly 50 years, Roe v. Wade has guaranteed the right to an abortion up to viability. But as the U.S. Supreme Court has become less likely to protect that right, Republican-led states have worked to move that threshold back. However, none of them have taken as extreme measures as Oklahoma's.
Catherine Sweeney reporting. There'll be a recount for Pennsylvania's Republican Senate primary election. Celebrity doctor Mehmet Oz leads wealthy businessman David McCormick by fewer than 1,000 votes. That triggers Pennsylvania's automatic recount process. There are a few thousand overseas and mail-in ballots left to tally. Stocks opened higher this morning amid upbeat reports from major retailers. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose about 420 points in early trading.
Macy's, Dollar Tree, and Dollar General all raised their sales forecast this morning, suggesting consumers at various income levels are still spending freely despite rising prices. That's in contrast to downbeat reports earlier this month from some other big retailers, including Best Buy and Target. Revised figures from the Commerce Department show consumer spending in the first 3 months of the year was stronger than initially reported. That was offset, though, by a sharper drop in inventory investment. The revised figures show GDP shrank during the quarter at an annual rate of 1.5%, slightly worse than the original tally. Congressional forecasters expect a sharp decline in the federal deficit this year, thanks to robust tax revenues and a drop in pandemic spending. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
On Wall Street, the Dow was up more than 1%. This is NPR. A fire at a hospital in Senegal has killed nearly a dozen newborn babies. NPR's Ada Peralta reports an initial investigation found the fire was sparked by a short circuit.
Local media report that the hospital in the small town of Tivaouen had just been renovated. The fire tore through the neonatal ward and killed 11 newborns. Local authorities say 3 babies were saved. President Macky Sall expressed his condolences to the families of those who died. Opposition legislator Mamadou Diallo called the deaths unacceptable and in a statement wrote, "Enough is enough." Last year, the rights group Amnesty International called on the government of Senegal to inspect all of the country's hospitals after 4 newborns were killed in a similar fire at a different hospital in April of 2021. Local authorities say the president has ordered an investigation and a review of all similar health facilities in the country. Ada Peralta, NPR News, Cape Town.
The National Interagency Fire Center says 9 large uncontained wildfires have burned nearly 900 square miles in the U.S. That's about 3/4 the size of Rhode Island. Several blazes are in New Mexico, including the biggest active wildfire now burning in the U.S. Boeing spacecraft, the Starliner, has returned safely to Earth. It was docked with the International Space Station for about a week before it landed in New Mexico yesterday evening. It used 3 parachutes and some airbags to cushion its landing. Boeing hopes to use the Starliner to start carrying NASA astronauts into space. That may happen by the end of this year. I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering Capital One Shopping, a downloadable browser extension that searches various sites for shoppers. What's in your wallet? More at CapitalOneShopping.com. And the Annie E. Casey Foundation.
We know teachers and parents are working hard to ensure students have access to dynamic digital resources to meet students' learning goals. That's why we at WHRO have various webinars designed to help you continue developing your skills. Hear from great Virginia teachers on their favorite strategies, as well as eMedia VA resources. Visit whro.org/webinar today.
This is 1A. I'm Jen 1. The small town of Uvalde, Texas is in mourning. Last night, a vigil was held to mark the loss of 19 children and 2 teachers in a mass shooting on Tuesday. The vigil came just a few hours after a press conference in which gubernatorial candidate and Democrat Beto O'Rourke confronted Republican Governor Greg Abbott about his gun policies. Abbott is slated to attend the National Rifle Association convention, which starts tomorrow in Texas. But as the rest of the country waits for solutions, Uvalde is waiting for more information. The police say they still don't know the motive behind the shooting. Morning Edition's co-host A. Martinez was in Uvalde at that candlelight vigil. Here's community member Leah Wretch.
There's all kinds of debate about what that day means with gun laws and politics. What do you want to hear from our leaders on something like that in relation to this and what happened here?
I don't want to hear anything about that. It's not about that. It's about these babies.
We'll have more on the shooting and its fallout in the days and weeks to come. In the meantime, you can always hear the latest on your local NPR station. As children under 5 wait to get a COVID-19 vaccine, some children still need to catch up on routine vaccines for other diseases, like measles, mumps, and meningitis. In 2020, 23 million children worldwide didn't get basic childhood vaccines, the kind that typically come from routine health services. That's according to UNICEF and the WHO. The decline is also being felt in the U.S. Vaccines for Children is the federal program through which about half of all American children are immunized. In 2021, order levels for the program were about 7% lower than they were before the pandemic. Washington State recently reported one of the sharpest drops. We'll talk to the Secretary of Health there later in the show. But first, we're going to explain why vaccinating children is so important in eradicating diseases and what this decline in rates could mean for children's health and other infectious diseases. Joining us is Dr. Paul Offit. He's the director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Dr. Offit, welcome back.
Thank you.
And Dr. Carl Lambert is with us. He's a professor of family medicine at Rush University's Medical College in Chicago. Dr. Lambert, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
So, Dr. Offit, just to be clear, we're not talking about COVID-19 vaccines for children. We'll get to that a bit later in the show. But there are a whole bunch of other diseases that are preventable with routine immunizations. What diseases are those?